So I'm introducing the 1990 through 1996 Central Control Module Firmware Update, which I've called the 2020 update, probably because that's the year I started working on this. There's some really cool features. One of the things that I like is when you first turn on the ignition, you'll get a welcome screen. You can write something like your company name or 93 Corvette or Dr. Vet or whatever you can think of. I wrote my company name in there. There's only 7 letters to work with, and not all letters can be formed, but it's still kind of a novel thing to have it come on when the car is first turned on. One of the things that used to drive me crazy with the Corvette's Central Control Module software was that the vehicle anti-theft system was programmed to lock you out for 4 minutes, which is probably good if it's a theft attempt, but chances are it's just you trying to start your car and you accidentally got a bit of moisture on the key pellet, and the subsequent result is you're locked out for 4 minutes, maybe even longer. So I made a couple of changes in the 2020 firmware upgrade. Change number 1 is the security light will stay on so that you can watch it and know when it's good to try again. So you don't have to wait endlessly guessing at when it's safe to try the key again. The security light will go out, and that's when you know you're not in a VATS lockout. The other thing is the first 2 successive times that you accidentally set it off. If you do it twice in a row, back to back, you only have to wait about 10 seconds or so before you get to try again. So let me demonstrate that. We're looking at the cluster, and I'm going to turn off the ignition and put the key back on, and you'll see that the security light is on, and we've accidentally knocked off the VATS system. So I'm going to shut the key off, pull it out, give it a quick wipe, and I'm going to stick it in. And then you'll see the security light is on. Once that security light goes off, we are good to go. Now you get to try to start the car again. Those of you who are fans of the C4 Corvette probably came to the realization that there were some features built into the Central Control Module software in 1992 that didn't exist in 1990 and in 91. And one of those features was the built-in digital gauges. So I've added those to the 2020 firmware. As a result, you can now hit the range button, which would be the gauges button on the 92 through 96 driver information center. And when you do so, you'll see it'll switch to voltage. You'll get your engine oil temperature, and you'll also get the coolant temperature. But one of the coolest things that I find is I've added C4 Auto Scan, which puts the vehicle into basically the Central Control Module Diagnostics mode. And you can leave it on there if you're trying to troubleshoot on the fly. So you don't have to worry about the car running or anything like that. You don't have to, jump A to G on the ALDL line. This will give you diagnostics right at your fingertips by using the driver information center. And if you want to switch away from that, just hit a button on the DIC, and there you go. Right now we're reading the engine coolant temperature, which is coming up as 83 Celsius. We can switch back to the imperial system and see that we're doing about 31 miles an hour. This is simulated, folks. I'm not really driving while shooting this video. I'm on the emulator that I have in my engineering facilities. So we're getting great gas mileage too, I think. Let me just check to see what it says. Yeah, I'm getting 11 miles to the gallon. Keep in mind, I'm not really moving. But so that's one of the coolest features is bringing the digital gauges feature to the 1990 and 1991 Corvettes. Another feature that is brought into this, the 1990 did not get the delayed accessory bus. Well, that is actually activated now. That wire is activated, but you need to hook up a relay or something like that from that wire to make it actually work. But they started the delayed accessory bus in 91, if I'm not mistaken. So people who have a 1990 Corvette didn't get that feature. But at least now in the Central Control Module software, as a result of the 2020 upgrade, I've now activated that feature as well. And this is what I call the 2020 sledgehammer mode. Most people don't realize this because they probably don't drive their car past 200 miles an hour, but the truth is the C4 Corvette between 1990 and 1996, the maximum speed that the cluster could display was only 220 mph. So I've made some changes to the Central Control Module software in the 2020 update so that it gets the full potential of one maxed out byte, which is FF, and that equates to 255 mph. And I think the Sledgehammer did that speed, so that's why I've just basically called this Sledgehammer mode. There's nothing you need to do, it's there. So find yourself a really steep hill and give it a shot. You're looking at a 1990 through 1996 Central Control Module from a Corvette in the C4 generation. The thing to remember is the actual hardware is the same throughout those model years. The only difference is the actual software, and of course some of the connection points go to features that certain models have and certain models don't have. So the thing to remember is you can actually take any central control module and use that with the proper software for your particular model year. If the software is wrong, it's not going to work correctly. Now, with the 2020 firmware upgrade, one of the things that I do to all the CCMs is I put a socket in. This makes it easier for the do-it-yourselfer to change the software if they want to put the original back in, or if there's a 2021 software update or a 2030 update or something like that, you can add newer software just by swapping out the chip. So the important thing to remember when you're swapping out the chip is pin 1 has to be observed. If you put the chip in wrong, it's not going to work, and you could actually fry the circuit. Anyway, in any event, here is pin 1 down here, bottom left corner. That's pin 1. And if you take a look at the chip, you'll notice that there's an indentation on pin 1, on the side that has pin 1. So that little indentation is a marker indicating where pin 1 is on the actual memory chip. And then it should actually say pin 1. Yeah, it does. I think it says pin 1 right there on the board. Can you read it? Okay, so as long as you put that in correctly, you're good to go. There's the main microcontroller. That's a Motorola unit, the workhorse. Every student that ever studied microcontroller programming knows all about that thing, probably using the old Buffalo code. The Delco system, a lot of their devices use the Motorola chips, and I got to tell you, 35, 40 years later, they're still working very well. What a workhorse. My guess is this unit is so well made, it could last literally hundreds of years. So what we're looking at right now is a Tech 1 Series A diagnostic tool used by most of the approved GM shops going back to the 90s, I guess even into the 80s. This tool has the capability of updating the EEPROM inside the CCM. So you can load up the vehicle identification number, the mileage, and the options that are in the particular vehicle that you're dealing with. Problem was the CCM software blocked the Tech 1 tools after 100 miles, so then you couldn't make changes to the CCM. I've taken that feature out so that if you're rebuilding a Corvette in the future, or rebuilding a CCM, as the case may be, you're pretty much not limited by mileage as to when you want to update the CCM code. That's great, too, if you want to sell a CCM and put it in a different year or a different set of options, perhaps from an LT5 engine to an LT4 or an LT1 engine or an L98, as the case may be. You can do that now. You're not limited by mileage with the 2020 firmware update.